Commander Carax watched the stars streak past through the reinforced viewport of her private quarters, her claws unconsciously tapping against the specially strengthened desk. The soft clicking sound echoed in the silence, a constant reminder of her difference from the rest of the crew. Another mark appeared on the desk's surface, and she pulled her hand back with a quiet sigh. That would be the third replacement this cycle. The stellar Voyager hummed beneath her feet, its gentle vibration barely noticeable to most of her crew, but crystal clear to her enhanced senses. Being from Nexus 9 had its advantages, though most saw them as reasons to fear her. Enhanced strength, reflexes, and sensory perception made her an excellent commander, but a concerning colleague. A gentle chime interrupted her thoughts. "Commander, we're approaching the Centauri sector border." Lieutenant Sullixi's voice carried its usual slight tremor when addressing her directly. "Acknowledged, Lieutenant. I'll be on the bridge shortly." Carax stood, her movements carefully measured. The bridge crew had finally stopped flinching when she entered, but sudden movements still set them on edge. The corridors of the stellar Voyager were quiet during the night shift, her footsteps echoing off the metallic walls. Few crew members were about, and those she passed offered hurried salutes before finding reasons to turn down adjacent hallways. She'd grown accustomed to the solitude, even if she hadn't grown to appreciate it. The bridge doors slid open with a soft hiss, and Carax took her place in the command chair. The night shift crew maintained their focus on their stations, their shoulders slightly more tense than before her arrival. Standard reaction, nothing to concern herself with. "Status report," she requested, keeping her voice at the carefully modulated tone she'd practiced for years. "All systems nominal, Commander," Sulixi responded from the operations console. "We're maintaining course along the designated patrol route. No unusual readings in the sector." Carax nodded, settling into the familiar routine of a border patrol. The Galactic Confederation valued these regions for their resource-rich systems, even if most species found them too challenging to colonize. Her own people had once been among those who carved out a life in these harsh conditions, before their world's magnetic storms had grown too intense even for them. The minutes stretched into hours as they cruised along the border. Carax found herself analyzing the crew's behavior, a habit she'd developed over years of command. Sullixi's anxiety had decreased by 12% since her arrival, progress, however minimal. The new navigation officer, Freshka, had only looked over his shoulder in fear 3 times this shift instead of the usual 5. A sudden alert from the sensor station broke through the monotony. "Commander." Sensor Officer Venra's antenna straightened in surprise. "I'm detecting an unusual energy signature from the Helios cluster." Carax leaned forward, her interest piqued. "Clarify unusual, officer." "The energy pattern doesn't match any known Confederation or independent world signatures." Venra's fingers danced across her console. "It's powerful, structured, but unlike anything in our database." "Show me," Carax ordered, and a holographic display materialized in front of her chair. The energy signature pulsed with a rhythm that spoke of artificial origin, but its complexity suggested advanced technology. Far too advanced for any known pirate group in the sector. "Plot an intercept course," she commanded, noting how the crew's anxiety spiked at the prospect of deviation from their patrol route. "And contact Confederation Command. Let them know we're investigating an anomaly." As the stellar Voyager altered its course, Carax felt something she hadn't experienced in years: genuine excitement. Her instincts, honed by evolution on one of the galaxy's harshest worlds, told her this was something significant. Something that might finally prove that her differences were an asset rather than a liability. Little did she know, this decision would change not only her life, but the entire galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be a Deathworlder. The stellar Voyager dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Helios cluster, its sensors immediately focusing on the source of the mysterious energy signature. Carax stood from her command chair, her enhanced vision picking out details on the main view screen that her crew might have missed. "Magnification, maximum," she ordered, her claws leaving fresh marks on her armrests. The image shifted, revealing a sleek vessel unlike anything in Confederation records. Its hull gleamed with an almost organic sheen, yet its design spoke of advanced engineering principles that even Carax's experienced eye struggled to comprehend. Life signs, she questioned, noting how Sensor Officer Venra's antennae twitched with excitement. Yes, Commander, but the readings are unusual. They're registering as Class 12 biological signatures. Venra's voice wavered. Class 12 was the same designation as Carax's own biology, Deathworlder physiology. Before Carax could process this revelation, a communication request pinged across their systems. "Unknown vessel is hailing us," Lieutenant Selexy announced, their normal tremor now a full shake. On screen, Carax commanded, straightening her posture. The view screen flickered, and for the first time in her life, Carax found herself facing someone who moved like her. The being on the screen wore a uniform of unfamiliar design, but it was their movements that caught Carax's attention. Quick, precise, controlled, just like her own. The figure's dark eyes scanned the bridge with the same predatory awareness that Carax possessed. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Stellar Pioneer." The being spoke, their voice carrying a strength that made several of Carax's crew step back involuntarily. "We apologize for any alarm our presence may have caused. We're on an exploration mission from our home system." Carax felt her heart rate increase, a rare occurrence. "I am Commander Carax of the Confederation vessel Stellar Voyager. Your energy signature is unlike anything in our database. Earth, I'm not familiar with this system." Captain Chen smiled, and Carax recognized the careful control in the expression. The same control she used to avoid frightening her own crew. "We're relatively new to interstellar travel. Our world is, well, let's say it prepared us well for the challenges of space." "Your world's gravitational force?" Carax asked, already suspecting the answer. 1.4 times galactic standard, Chen replied, causing murmurs among the bridge crew. "Among other challenges, I notice you seem to understand our situation, Commander." Carax nodded slowly. "Nexus 9, 1.4 times galactic standard. Severe electromagnetic storms, aggressive fauna, extreme temperature variations. Sounds like Earth might have some competition for the title of most challenging homeworld." Chen's smile widened slightly, still carefully controlled. "Perhaps we should discuss this further. Would you be open to a face-to-face meeting?" The bridge crew's anxiety spiked noticeably, but Carax felt something else entirely: anticipation. "Our starboard docking port is compatible with most known configurations. Can your ship adapt?" "We're quite good at adapting," Chen responded, and Carax caught the double meaning in her words. "Initiating docking procedures now." As the two ships maneuvered into position, Carax observed the Stellar Pioneer's movements. The ship handled with a precision that matched its captain's bearing, performing maneuvers that would strain most vessels' structural integrity. "Commander," Selexy spoke up hesitantly, "standard protocol for first contact situations requires." "I'm aware of the protocols, Lieutenant," Carax interrupted gently. "But I suspect this situation is anything but standard. Prepare the diplomatic reception area, and inform medical to expect readings similar to my own biology." As she watched the Stellar Pioneer complete its docking sequence, Carax realized that for the first time since leaving Nexus 9, she felt a sensation she'd almost forgotten: the feeling of not being alone. Whatever came next would change everything she thought she knew about her place in the galaxy. The Stellar Voyager's Arboretum was designed to accommodate various species' comfort levels, but Carax had never seen anyone else move through it with such natural grace as Captain Chen. The human navigated between the delicate crystal flowers and reinforced trees with the same careful precision Carax herself employed. "Your botanists did an excellent job creating these hybrid species," Chen observed, gently touching a leaf that would have shredded standard Confederation environmental suits. "We have similar gardens on Earth, though ours tend to focus more on species from our various biomes." Various biomes. Carax's interest peaked, Nexus 9 primarily features crystalline forests and magnetic deserts. The storms make other ecosystems difficult to maintain. Chen's eyes lit up with genuine enthusiasm. Earth is different. We have everything from frozen tundras to scorching deserts, dense rainforests to open grasslands. Each environment shaped us in its own way. She paused near a particularly resilient specimen. Though I suspect your magnetic storms provided their own unique challenges. They did, Crax confirmed, unconsciously flexing her claws. The storms forced us to develop internal magnetic sensing organs, useful for navigation, though they make some technology rather interesting to operate. A sudden burst of laughter from Chen startled several passing crew members. Sorry, she apologized, noting their reactions. It's just, we have something similar. Humans developed an extraordinary sense of pattern recognition and spatial awareness. Makes some species nervous when we seem to predict things. Crax found herself sharing in the humans' amusement. My crew still hasn't adjusted to my reaction speed. Last week, I caught a falling datapad before it shattered. 3 engineers filed safety concerns. I know that feeling. Chen sighed, though her eyes remained bright. First time I demonstrated human endurance in a diplomatic function, I thought the Centaurian ambassador would faint. Apparently, being able to continue physical activity for hours is unsettling. They reached the Arboretum's observation dome, where the stars stretched out before them. Both commanders stood in comfortable silence, their enhanced vision taking in details others would miss. You mentioned Earth has oceans, Crax said finally. Nexus 9s were lost to the storms centuries ago. The few historical records we have speak of creatures that could challenge even our strongest warriors. Chen nodded. Earth's oceans still hide mysteries. We mapped more of our solar system than our deep seas. Some of the creatures down there. She whistled softly. Let's just say space feels safer sometimes. And yet here we both are, Crax observed. 2 species from harsh worlds, exploring the stars. About that, Chen's tone grew serious. We've been monitoring Confederation communications since making first contact. Your people seem to be the only other Deathworlders in known space. Have you ever wondered why? Before Crax could respond, her communication implant chimed urgently. Chen's own device activated simultaneously, their synchronized reactions drawing surprised looks from nearby crew members. Priority alert from both commands, Crax announced, reading the data streaming across her enhanced vision. Unknown vessels approaching from the galactic core. They're not responding to hails. We're getting the same reports, Chen confirmed, her posture shifting subtly into what Crax recognized as a combat-ready stance. Multiple ships, moving in patterns that suggest coordinated action. My tactical analysis suggests an invasion force, Crax finished, their Deathworlder instincts reaching the same conclusion. They're testing our response capabilities. The 2 commanders shared a look of perfect understanding. Years of evolution on worlds that demanded constant vigilance had prepared them for this moment. Well, Chen said with a predatory smile that would have terrified most Confederation species, but felt perfectly natural to Crax. Shall we show them what Deathworlders can do when they work together? For the first time in her career, Crax felt truly ready for what was coming. She wasn't alone anymore, and the galaxy was about to learn why challenging 2 Deathworlder species simultaneously was a terrible mistake. The Stellar Voyager's bridge hummed with tension as tactical displays showed the approaching vessels. Crax stood at her command station, Captain Chen beside her, both of them processing information faster than their crews could follow. The unknown ships moved with unsettling fluidity, their formations shifting like liquid metal. 7 distinct vessel classes, Crax noted, her enhanced vision picking out details in the long-range scans. But something's wrong with their energy signatures. They're overlapping somehow. Chen nodded, her eyes narrowed. Like they're sharing power sources. Reminds me of coral colonies back on Earth, individual units forming a greater whole. She tapped her communication device. Pioneer, status report. Multiple ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. Captain, her first officer responded. They're using some kind of bioorganic technology we've never encountered. Our standard scanning protocols are having trouble locking on. Crax's tactical officer, his antennae quivering, spoke up. Commander, we're receiving a transmission. It's broadcasting on all frequencies. On screen, both commanders ordered simultaneously, sharing a brief look of understanding. The viewing screen filled with a sight that made even the Deathworlders pause. A being composed of flowing silver material addressed them, its form constantly shifting between humanoid and geometric patterns. "We are the Harmony Collective," it announced in a voice that seemed to come from multiple sources at once. "Your biological and technological distinctiveness will be adapted into our perfect unity. Resistance is." "Mute transmission," Crax ordered, turning to Chen. "I've seen this behavior before, in the crystal wastes of Nexus 9. When they couldn't adapt to the magnetic storms, they tried to force the environment to adapt to them instead." Chen's eyes lit with recognition. Like the parasitic fungi on Earth that take over insect colonies, they're not just looking to conquer. They want to remake everything in their image. She paused, watching the tactical display. "Your ships are built for peaceful exploration, aren't they?" "Unfortunately," Crax confirmed. "The Confederation hasn't faced a serious military threat in generations. Most of our weapons are defensive only." A predatory smile crossed Chen's face. "The Pioneer's different. Earth might be peaceful now, but we never forgot our warrior past. We built our ships to bite back." The Harmony Collective's ships began to move, their formation resembling a hunting net. Crax recognized the pattern from Nexus 9's pack predators. But these ships moved with an unnatural synchronization that set her instincts on edge. "They're trying to herd us toward the gas giant," Crax realized, "using its gravitational field to limit our escape vectors." "Classic pack hunting strategy," Chen agreed. "But they're not accounting for one thing. Deathworlders don't like being cornered." She turned to Crax. "Your ship has superior sensors. Mine has better weapons. Together, we can show them why evolution on harsh worlds breeds survivors." Crax finished. She opened a channel to both crews. "All personnel, battle stations. This is not a drill." The Stellar Voyager and Pioneer moved in perfect tandem. Their commanders shared Deathworlder instincts, allowing them to coordinate without lengthy explanations. As the first wave of collective ships approached, both crews witnessed something unprecedented. Their vessels dancing through space like predators themselves, each maneuver calculated to maximum effect. Multiple ships launching bioorganic boarding pods, Crax's tactical officer reported, his voice steadier now that action had replaced uncertainty. "Let them try," Chen growled, her stance shifting subtly. "They want to see how biological distinctiveness handles adaptation. I say we give them a close-up demonstration." Crax felt her own combat instincts rising, her claws extending slightly. "Agreed. Lieutenant, prepare security teams. Captain Chen and I will coordinate the defense personally." She turned to her new ally, ready to show them why Deathworlders are considered dangerous. Chen's answering smile would have terrified most species in the Confederation. To Crax, it was reassuring. "Born ready, Commander. Let's teach them about survival of the fittest." The first boarding pod breached the Stellar Voyager's outer hull with a sound that reminded Crax of Nexus 9's crystal beetles burrowing through rock. She and Chen sprinted through the corridors, their enhanced muscles allowing them to move at speeds that would have strained most species' visual processing. 3 entry points, Crax reported, her internal magnetic sense tracking the disturbances in the ship's power grid. "They're trying to surround engineering." Chen vaulted over a fallen support beam, her movements precise despite the artificial gravity fluctuations, classic divide and conquer strategy. "But they don't know what they're dealing with." She tapped her combat display. Pioneer's security teams are reporting similar breaches. These things adapt quickly. They reached the first breach point, just as the pod's hatches dissolved into liquid metal. The Harmony Collective's boarding party emerged like mercury flowing uphill, their forms shifting between humanoid and geometric configurations. "Fascinating," Chen muttered, analyzing their movements. "They're using some kind of programmable matter, like a more advanced version of our experimental smart materials." Krax's claws extended fully. "Let's see how well it adapts to Deathworlder combat speeds." She launched forward, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to strike between the collective's morphing patterns. Her claws left deep gouges in their liquid metal forms. Chen moved with equal precision, her fighting style complementing Krax's perfectly. Where Krax struck with natural weapons, Chen used her environment, turning the ship's own architecture into improvised tools. A piece of loose paneling became a blade, a power conduit transformed into a staff. "They're learning," Chen called out, noticing how the entities began to anticipate their attack patterns. "But they can't match our processing speed. Their adaptations are too linear." Krax understood immediately. On Nexus 9, survival meant being able to change strategies mid-fight, to think in patterns that predators couldn't predict. She switched tactics suddenly, using her magnetic sense to interfere with the collective's molecular cohesion. The effect was immediate. The liquid metal beings struggled to maintain their forms, their perfect synchronization disrupted by the unexpected assault on their basic structure. Chen capitalized on their confusion, her strikes now targeting the points where their forms were most unstable. "Commander," Lieutenant Selex's voice came through their communicators. "Engineering reports similar success using electromagnetic pulses. The entities can't maintain cohesion under random frequency variations. Just like the crystal wasps," Krax realized. "They depend too much on perfect order. They can't handle chaos." She turned to Chen. "Your Earth predators. They use unpredictable movements to confuse prey, yes?" Chen's eyes lit up with understanding. "Exactly. And humans turned that principle into everything from boxing to quantum physics." She activated her ship-wide communication. "All teams, implement random pattern protocol Delta. Vary your tactics every 30 seconds. Don't let them establish a baseline." The effect rippled through both ships. Security teams began switching weapons, positions, and strategies in patterns that seemed chaotic, but followed deep predatory instincts both humans and Nexus 9 natives shared. The collective entities, designed for perfect harmony, couldn't adapt to the deliberate disorder. "They're retreating," Krax observed, watching the liquid metal forms flow back toward their breach points. "But this was just a test. They'll come back better prepared." Chen nodded, already analyzing the battle data on her tactical display. "Then we need to be better prepared too. Your people's magnetic sensing abilities, combined with our pattern recognition." She paused, a plan forming. "We need to get this data to both our commands, and we need to convince them to let us train mixed combat teams." Krax felt her predatory instincts resonate with the idea. "The Confederation won't like it. They already fear one Deathworlder species. The idea of us working together will terrify them," Chen finished. "But right now, terror might be exactly what we need. The collective wants harmony. Let's show them what chaos can do in the hands of those evolved to master it." The holographic training room aboard the Stellar Voyager hummed with energy as Krax and Chen supervised their first joint combat exercise. 3 weeks had passed since their initial encounter with the Harmony Collective, and both commanders had fought hard to convince their respective commands to approve this unprecedented cooperation. Focus on disrupting their patterns, Krax instructed a mixed group of human and Nexus 9 security officers. The collective expects order. Give them chaos. Her claws clicked against the console as she adjusted the simulation parameters. Chen watched a human surgeon working in perfect synchronization with a Nexus 9 warrior, their movements complementing each other in ways that would have seemed impossible weeks ago. "They're learning fast. Your people's magnetic sensing combined with our pattern recognition. It's like they were made to work together." The training room erupted in controlled violence as holographic collective entities emerged from simulated breach points. The mixed teams responded with devastating efficiency, each species compensating for the other's blind spots. Incoming priority transmission, Lieutenant Selexy announced over the intercom, their voice carrying an unusual edge. Both Confederation Command and Earth Fleet Command. Marked urgent. Krax and Chen shared a knowing look. They had expected this. The footage of their first joint operation had spread through both organizations, causing as much concern as admiration. The sight of two Deathworlder species working together had sparked intense debate. "Put them through to my private office," Krax ordered. "Captain Chen will join me." The walk to the office was brief, but both commanders could feel the eyes of the crew following them. No longer looks of fear, but something more complex. Hope mixed with uncertainty. The holographic projectors activated as they entered, revealing stern faces from both commands. The Confederation Admiral's antennae twitched nervously, while the human fleet commander maintained a carefully neutral expression. "Commander Krax, Captain Chen," the Confederation Admiral began. "We've reviewed your proposal for expanded joint operations. The footage from your encounter with these collective entities is concerning." "Concerning isn't the word I'd use," the human commander interjected. "Impressives, certainly, but also potentially devastating. The level of coordination your teams displayed exceeds anything we thought possible between our species." Chen stepped forward, her posture respectful but unyielding. "That's exactly why we need to expand the program. The collective adapts to predictable patterns. Our species, working together, create combinations they can't process. Your success is precisely what worries us," the Admiral admitted. "Two Deathworlder species, combining their natural advantages. The political implications alone." Krax felt her patience wearing thin. "Admiral, with respect, politics won't matter if the collective isn't stopped. They've already adapted to our individual tactics. The only reason we succeeded was by combining our approaches in ways they couldn't predict." The human commander leaned forward. "And what happens when the war is over? We'll have created battle-tested teams of the two most dangerous species in known space." "What happens?" Chen responded, her voice carrying the weight of Earth's long history, "is that we prove evolution on harsh worlds creates more than just warriors. It creates survivors who understand the true value of cooperation." Krax nodded, adding, "Our worlds taught us that strength alone doesn't guarantee survival. Adaptation does. Working together, we can show the galaxy that Deathworlders can be its greatest defenders, not its greatest threat." The commander shared a long look before the Admiral spoke again. "You have 1 month to prove this concept. But be warned, one incident, one loss of control, and the program ends immediately." After the transmission ended, Chen turned to Krax. "They're afraid of us." "Good," Krax replied, her claws extending slightly. "Fear might keep them from interfering until they understand what we're really creating here. Something neither of our species could achieve alone." A sudden alert blared through the ship. Multiple collective signatures detected at the edge of the system, Selexy reported. "Their formation. It's different this time." "Well," Chen said with a predatory smile, "shall we show our commands exactly what two Deathworlder species can do together?" The stellar Voyager's bridge crackled with energy as Krax analyzed the approaching collective fleet. Their formation had evolved, becoming more fluid and unpredictable, an attempt to mirror the chaos that had defeated them before. But something about their movement pattern tickled at her instincts. "They're not just copying our tactics," Chen observed from her position at the auxiliary tactical station. "They're trying to improve on them. Look at the wave pattern in their formation." Krax's magnetic sense tingled as she processed the data. Like the predator swarms during Nexus 9's magnetic storms, they would use the storm's energy to mask their true numbers. Her claws extended unconsciously. But there's something else. Lieutenant Selexy's antennae suddenly went rigid. "Commander, energy spike detected across all collective vessels. They're synchronizing their shield frequencies with our own." "Clever," Chen muttered, her fingers dancing across the tactical display. They learned from last time. Instead of fighting our chaos, they're trying to match it, to become it. The first wave of collective ships struck like lightning, their weapons phasing through shields calibrated to stop conventional attacks. The stellar Voyager shuddered, but held together thanks to its reinforced Deathworlder spec construction. "Return fire," Crax ordered, but the collective vessels shifted and flowed around their attacks like liquid mercury. Their new adaptation had made them nearly untouchable. "All teams, maintain random pattern protocol," Chen broadcast to both ships. "But they're ready for it this time. We need something new." She turned to Crax, her eyes bright with an idea. "What if we stop trying to be unpredictable?" Crax tilted her head, her tactical mind racing ahead. "You mean become completely predictable? But that's exactly what they're expecting us to avoid," Chen finished. "On Earth, some predators learn to use absolute stillness as a hunting technique. Sometimes the most unexpected thing is to do exactly what your enemy thinks you won't." Understanding blazed through Carax's mind. Like the crystal serpents of Nexus 9. They would mimic the regular patterns of the magnetic fields until their prey forgot they were there. She opened a channel to all combat teams. "New strategy. Switch to absolute pattern compliance. Match your movements to the ship's standard operational rhythms." The effect was immediate and devastating. The collective, having adapted to counter chaos, found themselves unable to process this sudden shift to perfect order. Their attempts to mirror unpredictability faltered against an enemy that had embraced predictability as a weapon. "Their formation is breaking down," Selexi reported, wonder in their voice. "They can't maintain their adaptive algorithms against nothing to adapt to." Chen grinned fiercely. "Sometimes the best way to fight evolution is to make it work against itself. All teams, coordinate your attacks with the ship's power pulse frequency. Let's show them what happens when Deathworlders decide to play by the rules." The battle transformed into a deadly dance of precision. Every shot, every maneuver executed with mathematical exactness. The collective ships, designed to counter and adapt, found themselves trapped by their own programming. They couldn't adapt to an enemy that refused to deviate from established patterns. Multiple collective vessels showing signs of systemic failure, Carax's tactical officer announced. Their adaptive protocols are caught in a feedback loop. As the enemy fleet began to disintegrate, Carax felt something profound settle into her understanding. "We've been thinking about this wrong," she said quietly to Chen. "Being a Deathworlder isn't about being stronger or more aggressive. It's about knowing when to be strong and when to be subtle, when to fight and when to just be." Chen nodded, watching as the last collective ship retreated. "That's why our worlds produced sentient species capable of building civilizations, not just survivors. We learned to master our nature, not be ruled by it." "Commander," Selexi interrupted, their voice steadier than Carax had ever heard it. "Incoming transmission from both commands. They want to know how soon we can begin implementing the joint training program across the entire fleet." 3 months after their decisive victory over the Harmony Collective, Carax stood in the stellar Voyager's newly expanded Arboretum, watching Earth and Nexus 9 plants growing side by side. The crystal flowers from her homeworld cast rainbow refractions across Captain Chen's face as they discussed their latest training session. "The new crews are adapting faster than expected," Chen noted, carefully pruning a particularly aggressive earth vine that had tried to entangle itself with a crystalline branch. "Yesterday's class mastered the magnetic sensitivity exercises in half the time we anticipated." Carax nodded, her claws delicately adjusting the position of a crystal growth. "And your people's pattern recognition techniques have helped my species develop new ways to predict the magnetic storms back home. The scientists on Nexus 9 are already implementing the changes." The door chimed, admitting Lieutenant Selexi, who approached without their former nervousness. "Commander, Captain, the Confederation Council's delegation has arrived. They're gathering in the observation deck with the Earth representatives." Both commanders shared a knowing look before making their way through the corridors. Crew members, human and Nexus 9 alike, moved with comfortable familiarity around each other, their once feared differences now a source of strength. The observation deck had been transformed for the occasion. Representatives from both governments stood together, watching through the reinforced windows as a joint fleet of Earth and Confederation vessels performed synchronized maneuvers against the backdrop of stars. Commander Krax, Captain Chen, the Confederation admiral who had once doubted them, stepped forward. Your joint training program has exceeded all expectations. The Harmony Collective's retreat from known space has been confirmed, and our analysts credit your innovative tactics for their withdrawal. The Earth Fleet commander joined them, her expression thoughtful. More importantly, you've shown us something we never expected, that the very traits we feared in Deathworlders are what make them exceptional guardians of peace. Krax felt Chen shift beside her, both of them standing with the careful poise their powerful bodies required. We simply proved what our evolution always intended, Krax responded. Survival isn't about domination. It's about adaptation and cooperation. Which is why we're here. A new voice joined them. A senior Confederation scientist approached, holding a data crystal. We've been analyzing the environmental data from both Earth and Nexus 9. Your worlds aren't just similar. They're complementary. The magnetic storms that forced your people to develop new senses, he nodded to Krax, they match patterns we've discovered in Earth's historical magnetic field. Chen's eyes widened with understanding. You think our worlds were connected somehow? That our evolutionary paths were meant to intersect? Krax finished, pieces falling into place, like the crystal flowers and earth vines in the arboretum. Different approaches to survival that work better together than apart. The Earth Commander smiled. Which brings us to our proposal. We want to establish a permanent joint academy. A place where both our species can train together, learn from each other, and prepare to defend not just our own worlds, but all worlds. The Academy of Advanced Evolution, the Admiral added. And we want you both to oversee it. Krax looked out at the fleet movements, remembering how alone she had felt before meeting Chen and the humans. Now, watching their ships dance through space together, she understood that strength came in many forms. What do you think, Captain? She asked, turning to her friend. Ready to teach the galaxy what Deathworlders can really do. Chen's answering smile carried all the warmth of Earth's sun. I think it's time to show everyone that the most important lesson from evolution isn't survival of the fittest, but survival of the most adaptable. As they stood together, watching their crews work in perfect harmony, Krax realized that she had found something far greater than another Deathworlder. She had found proof that the harshest worlds could produce the deepest wisdom, and that true strength lay not in standing alone, but in standing together. The galaxy would never again underestimate Deathworlders, not because of their power, but because of their capacity to turn difference into unity and challenge into growth.